right in front of you. It's a bit low. You got it? Okay. Good. All right. When it came to closing this conference, we wanted someone that would really sum up the power of diversity. And Mike Duxbury of Inclusive Farm was the name that we all immediately came up with. We've discussed and debated diversity in all its forms over the last few days, but of all of them, it's diversity of people that's most important. If we can show that there is a place for everybody in this industry, no matter their background, then it will be stronger, more vibrant, more enjoyable, and ultimately a more successful place for all of us to be involved. I can't think of anyone better to highlight that than Mike, so could everyone please give a very warm OFC welcome to Mike Duxbury.
Well, thank you, Will, and good afternoon to you all. In the case of what Holly had to say, at least you've got some help out there with other women farmers. It's very lonely being the only blind farmer in Britain, but you know, we put up with it. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am and what we do, and then we can perhaps just talk about what's happened over the last few days with regards to diversity and inclusion. At the age of 7, I decided I wanted to go into farming, even though I'd lost my sight 6 months earlier, but was told very succinctly by my teacher, sorry, blind people do not do farming. Well, unfortunately, at the age of 55, I've had a damn good career in farming, so thank you very much to my teacher. But you know, the big disappointment for me was at the age of 8, and my 8th birthday, and thinking, crikey, I've always wanted that Britain's combine. And I got 2 large white pigs. And there started my love of pigs. And there started my real love of farming. And you know, when I decided that the only way of doing this was to follow the same path, back in those days, you know, being blind and wanting to farm was very much a no-no, and so be it. But I decided to follow the path like anybody else, apply to agricultural college and go and get my certificates and whatever. And I didn't realise how difficult that would be. Back in the day, a long time ago, 36 colleges, 1 said yes. 35 said no. So Morton Morrell College of Warwickshire, I have a huge thank you to you. When Graham Sutton, the principal, invited me along, sat down and said, I haven't got a bloody clue what we're doing here. And I said, well, you and me both. So I went to the college and I went to work on their farm to show them what a blind, enthusiastic individual could do. 4 years later, I walked away with a 2-1 degree in animal husbandry as a qualified nutritionist. But what was the funniest part, even though I ended up going to college, the second weekend at college was the introduction of each year was the local gun club. Well, Graham Sutton said to me, well, you can't be left out of this. Come along, I'll teach you how to shoot a 12-bore. We had a local guy who also said, well, I can help here. I'm a dentist. I'll drill some holes in the clays, so when they spin, they whistle. So just getting towards dark, of course, that didn't affect me at all. I thought, right, it must be my turn to have a go. So up went the clays, and bugger me, I got 6 out of 10. And that's the last time I fired a 12-bore shotgun. I think we have to learn to know our limits. The beauty about going to Morton Morrell is that although I was totally blind, I was accepted by everybody else. So I never felt being blind, if that makes any sense. I was just one of the rugby team that could drink just as well as the rest of them. Get up to pranks, and the beauty about the pranks was, and I'll tell a little story about when Top Gun came out in 1988, and we all wanted to go and watch it. And we had one car between 18 of us. So I said, don't worry, I'll hotwire the cattle truck. And we could all pile in the back of that, leave 3 of us in the front, and when we get to the cinema, put my disabled badge up, that'll be all right. So that's what we did. But what shocked them afterwards, the first ever drive-through McDonald's was down the road. And when we rolled up in this lorry saying, can I have 18 Big Mac meals, please? They were quite shocked. But that just shows that how normalised I was at college. And that was 38 years ago. Unfortunately, things went downhill really from there on. Not for me, but for society. I was blinkered because obviously back then it was, I'm not going to say easy because it wasn't, but I walked out of college straight to a job as a trainee nutritionist for BOCM Paul's, the animal feed company. I went on to be a stud manager for Cotswold Pigs. I then took a break away from farming and ended up working for a small company called Vodafone and ended up as global head of diversity. But one thing I learnt in my time at Vodafone was the shocking behaviour of people in society towards people with disabilities. And I never had that in farming. And I think that tells you something about how good farmers really are. They've got better things to worry about than whether you can see, not see, male, female, of colour or whatever sexual orientation you may be. And back in my days, it was usually aimed at the Welsh.
Oi, hang on. You invited this fella.
But now we're in 2024, guys, and we still have huge challenges. And those challenges are what you've heard over the last few days. And the biggest challenge is people. We can have the best soil, we can have the best projects, products, the best customers, but without people making it happen, we won't get anywhere. There are 11 million disabled people in the UK, and less than 800 of those work in the farming, forestry, fishery and food industry. 90% of blind people in the UK are unemployed, and the other 10%, bar this one, predominantly work in charities that relate to their blindness. So we have a lot of work to do. Okay? And we can all sit here and we you know, Oxford Farming Conference has had its own difficulties in its past. I think agricultural colleges have a part to play. They're still denying people access to go to college. The NFU needs to engage with the rest of us, and collaboration needs to be a thing that we all should come together with. 3 years ago, my partner and I stupidly decided to set up and build our own farm. From a bare field, I built a whole working livestock farm, which is still the only farm ever to be built by a blind man in the world, so how stupid am I? But what we also do is we did it to show the world what disabled people can offer, what they can do, and now we teach agriculture to other disabled people who can take instruction and carry out instruction. So we're not a care farm, we're very different to that. We also have a very successful now pork business, and most of the ideas that come out of our pork business usually result from a night's drinking with my pals. So this year's favourite was a double chilli, a 1 foot long double chilli and maple syrup sausage. which, thank you very much, did very well. But I guess the toughest part for me is when I see the students who come to our farm who've got no hope of the future. They've got no choices, they've got no opportunities. Because society keeps saying that disabled people can't do this or can't do that. Or when you come through our gate on our farm, I can see again, we have no can'ts, and everybody can work that farm as well as anybody else. We had a lad of colour, funny enough, this last summer, who'd been with us 2 years. When he first came to the farm, he would sit on a bale, clutch his lunch, and wouldn't speak. Wouldn't do a thing, don't want to get my hands dirty, nothing. If I could afford it, I would have employed that guy this summer, because he now became one of our supervisors and teaches all the other students what is possible. And that's an amazing thing to see develop, pardon the pun, in front of your eyes. So we are making inroads. We're just about to launch our second farm in Scotland. And I'll be frank with you, we could open 20 farms tomorrow and fill them. The demand is that great. The government, as some of you may be aware, have been pushing very hard to get people off benefits back into employment. That's a great statement. But what have they put in place to make that happen when 95% of those people who are unemployed are disabled? And like Rory said this morning, earlier on, you can't just put apprentices on farms and think that we can turn them into X, Y, Z. There's so much work to do, guys, around getting communities back together in farming. Rural communities, growing them, getting money back into them rather than people leaving them because house prices are what they are, etc. Education. There's so many people out there who'd love to work in the food and farming industry, but for whatever reason, they can't. We've all heard the reasons today why we think they can't. But there's a lot of work to do across the UK to make ourselves more appealing, more attractive, more financially viable, so that we can carry out these things. And as an individual myself and as a farmer, we battle with so much on a daily basis, and quite often we don't get the support that we would like and that we need. So I come back and I ask you all now to go away and think how we, the big we here, can work together to collaborate, to work with colleges, the NFU, AHDB, ourselves. I'm not sure whether the government will be around in 8 months' time, so I'm not sure whether that's worth it. But we have a lot of work to do, and it can only happen if we all come together. And my wish that one day we're not talking about women in agriculture, we're talking about people in agriculture. We're talking about a whole raft of people, whether they be disabled, of colour, gay, 60-year-old white male farmers, whatever. It doesn't matter what you are. It's what you do with the farm or the industry that we all love. So guys, go away, think about it. And please have a safe journey home, and thank you for your time.